Let's just get started. We all know why we're here. We want to learn about turns. Before I give you tons of tips on how to improve your turns, I want to say one thing, just in case you don't stay through the whole video, but I really hope you do stay through the whole video because I'm giving you lots of good tips. I want you to make sure you have the right mindset about what a turn is, because I see a lot of dancers who seem to think of a turn as a spin, or they just want to get themselves around, and that's their one goal. You'll see a really big shift in the way that you turn if you start thinking of it as a balance with a head spot, rather than just trying to get yourself around. If you can just concentrate on getting a solid balance, getting a solid head spot, your turns are gonna improve dramatically. Because if you're thinking about those things and you're not just thinking, oh my gosh, I need to get around, you're actually gonna have the right technique, the right structure in place, the right foundation to be able to do lots and lots of turns. If you think of turns as, I just need to get my body around as quickly as possible at all costs, you're not gonna be teaching your body the right placement. And then when you try to do more advanced turns or different turn combinations, it's gonna be really hard for your body to adjust. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about some other components of turns. So of course, you have to prep before you turn. And I'm keeping this very general because I know some of you are ballet dancers, some of you are jazz contempt dancers or some other kind of dance. And so the way you prepare for your turn might be different. So if you're preparing for jazz turns, typically you're gonna go from this position. And one quick little hack that I've been telling people lately for getting your feet the right distance apart is to stand with your feet in second position. Your heels should be right underneath your hips. And then all you're gonna do is keep that foot there, keep both feet there, and just twist, and then drop it into a plie. And this should be a pretty good distance for most people. When you're in this preparation, you wanna have about 70 to 80% of your weight on this front leg. The back foot should be propped up. Like your heel is going straight up to the ceiling, and you should be able to really easily push off of that foot, use that foot, push, and get it right to your passe, or you might bring it to the front to do like a pencil turn. Whatever turn you're doing, you want to be able to push off of that foot really nice and easily. If you're doing ballet pirouettes, there are quite a few different options. You might be preparing from a fourth position, you might be preparing from fifth position. Regardless of the type of turn you're doing, your mentality needs to be the same. You always need to have your core engaged, and I have a video on that which I will link if you don't know what I mean by engaging your core. You want to have good alignment with your upper body. So if you're doing a parallel preparation, you don't want to have your upper body leaning back. You don't want to have it leaning forward. I know I said have 70 to 80% of your weight on this front foot, but that doesn't mean bring all of your weight forward. You should still have your body centered, your core tight. Same thing if you're doing a fourth position preparation. Gotta have these abs tight. You don't want to be leaning back. You don't want to be leaning forward. So the next piece of the puzzle of our turns is to balance. Just like I said earlier, you want to think of your turns as just a balance with a head spot. So you've got to master that balance. I also have a video on how to improve your balance, which I'll link. My biggest tip is to just test yourself. Really try and practice your balancing without holding on to anything. I feel like my balance improved the most when I took myself away from the bar, and I would just when I was just standing in my living room at home, I would just practice going up into a releve and figuring out how to adjust my body, how to pull up in my standing leg, what to do with my arms and my head to be able to balance. You of course also want to strengthen your ankles and your feet and your calves and your whole legs by doing releves and eleves. But like I said, taking off the training wheels, just going straight into practicing your balancing, that's really gonna make the most improvement. Now, I know I've gotten comments on this where people say, I can balance forever and ever and ever, but I can't do many turns. More than likely, it's one of two things happening. One could be you're not spotting properly and it's throwing you off. The other could be you're not practicing going from a prep to a balance. My last turn video, I talked on and on and on about this concept, where you have to practice getting to your balance from your prep. You can't just practice getting to your balance from whatever position, because that's not how you're gonna get into your turn. A turn, I know I said it's a balance with a spot, but it's also a shift in weight. So you have to learn how to shift your weight from your prep to your balance and hold that balance. Let me say that again. You have to practice going from prep to the balance and being able to balance there. It has to be that sequence. You can't just arbitrarily go out and practice balancing and hope for the best, because that's not how you turn. So just keep doing Prep balance as much as you need to until you can hold that balance for a really long time. When you're practicing your prep to balance, you also need to focus on getting to that balancing position as soon as possible. So if you're going to a retire, like a regular pirouette, you want to lock in this position as soon as you can. You want to get it there and stick it. Same thing if you're doing like a pencil turn. You want to get here as quickly as you can. You don't want to be like lingering in the air halfway in that position. The other most likely reason is your spotting. A lot of times we do kind of weird things with our heads and our necks while we're spotting, and it kind of throws us off balance. So if spotting is difficult for you, to practice spotting, I know it sounds dumb and no one wants to do it, because it feels silly and you don't think it's gonna help, but just grab a mirror, stand in front of it, look at yourself in your own eyes, and just turn in place and keep spotting. You're gonna have to just keep doing that for a little while until your body gets used to it. And then when you go to do your actual turns, record yourself and see if you're doing anything weird with your head and neck. You wanna think of like everything you do in a turn as being super like condensed in. So everything is moving on one plane, like the little ballerinas in the little jewelry boxes that spin around. That's exactly what you should feel like. You should feel like you're going up and you're staying in one spot the whole time, and there's like a stick going through you and you have to keep this line as you turn. So spotting is included in that. You have to keep it all in one place. You're just moving your head left to right. Spotting is something that does definitely get easier as you do it. It is totally normal to still feel dizzy even while you're spotting for a while. Your body's gonna kind of have to adapt to that feeling and getting your brain settled. Let's talk about arms when you turn. First of all, I think many of you probably know, you should never wind up your arm as you're preparing. If you're doing like this L preparation, you should be able to see this arm out of the corner of your eye. No matter what position your arms are in when you turn, you always want to think of engaging your back muscles to hold them in place. So rather than just lifting your arms up, front and side, heavy like that, the movement should be initiating from your back. Once you're holding your arms from your back, you're gonna feel really nice and rock solid, and you can kind of like float your arms into whatever position they need to go to, but you're still gonna be in that nice centered position like we talked about earlier. So we talked about how a turn is just a balance with a head spot. We talked about a few things that might be throwing off your turns, and we talked about how important it is to do your prep to your balance. So try all of those things, see if they improve your turns. Let me know in the comments if this was a helpful video for you and what questions you have about turns that I can help you with future content. Thanks so much for watching. I'll pop a couple other videos up here on the screen if you want to watch something else, and I hope to have you back for my next video. Bye!